There are many new options to PhotoshopCS6's crop tool. You can click the crop tool or hit the letter C on your keyboard to jump there. And one of my favorite is the ratios that are saved. In fact, there's a Facebook group that's dedicated to just square images and how they don't have to be portrait or landscape to be interesting. So let's try this 1 by 1 inch square. Before we do, I want to point out a couple of important things. If you go to Image and Image Size, you'll see this image is roughly 8 by 12 with a resolution of 240. I'm going to hit Cancel, and I'll choose 1 by 1 inch square, and then I'll move this until I'm happy with the perspective of the shot. My goal being to get most of the bridge in there, capture some of the chain, show a lot of blue sky, and get the shadow. If I double-click on the inside or press Return or Enter to commit to the crop, you'll see the file size dropped to 10.5 megs. If I undo with Command-Z or Control-Z, it was 15 megs, 15.8, so it got much smaller. I'll hit Command-Z or Control-Z again to redo, and we'll check Image, Image Size. Now I was surprised the first time I saw this. When I chose 1 by 1 square, I mistakenly said earlier that it was 1 inch, because that was my initial assumption. It is not. The 1 by 1 is a ratio, not a hard value. So it preserved the resolution at 240, but it kept it as close as it could to the original dimensions, so I ended up with 8 by 8, preserving the width. If I hit Cancel, and if I undo, we could try another one, like 4 by 5, which is the same ratio as 8 by 10. So here is what I could fit. And I do find this a little bit wiggly for my tastes. If I move, I expect the crop tool to move, not the image in the background. This is new behavior to CS6. So if you were used to the old behavior, I can check Use Classic Mode, and now I could simply move the crop bounds without the image always centering on the screen. Just a matter of personal choice. Use whichever setting is most comfortable for you. Now I'm going to hit Escape, and Escape in the old crop tool used to cancel. It still does cancel if I draw a smaller area and hit Escape, but it goes back to my last preset size. So you may have to get in the habit of clicking the Move tool or hitting the letter V for Move to get off your crop bounds if you really don't want to do it. As soon as you choose the crop tool, it goes to the last preset you selected, and it automatically draws the crop area on the image for you. Now what is key for me is this size and resolution field. If I choose size and resolution, a common practice for me is to take personal shots that I want to print out and mail to my mother or the in-laws. And when I go to my local drugstore, they have a default size of 6 by 4. So I'm constantly doing 6 by 4. And to save on file size, on digital devices, you typically don't need more than 150 pixels per inch or at a maximum 225 pixels per inch. Every time you double the resolution, the file size gets 4 times bigger. So if I took a 150 pixel per inch image and compared it to the same dimension 300 pixel per inch image, the 150 pixel per inch without compression could be 4 megabytes. The 300 pixel per inch image could be 16 megabytes. So at 150, the file size would be 4 megabytes. If I double the resolution to 300, the file size gets 4 times bigger, meaning an uncompressed image would be 16 megabytes. So it's important to put good numbers here. That way, if you take a USB disk into your local drugstore, you can actually save it as a preset and use this over and over again. So if I click Save as Crop Preset and click OK, there I can choose 6 by 4, and I happen to know that when I do 6 by 4, it is an inch value, not a ratio. And then I often just add the resolution at the end, whatever makes sense to you. I'll click OK, and now this will always appear in the crop menu. I love this feature. So here I could see what I could fit at a 6x4 inch area. And I inadvertently moved the center point there. When you move this, the center point can be positioned at other spots in case I want to rotate or swing it around to get an interesting angle. I'm going to hit Escape to cancel that, and I'm back to my 6x4, which you could also type here for width and height, and then I'll decide what area to keep by pressing Return or Enter to get my grid and dragging it up or down. And now when I press Return or Enter to accept the crop, if I check Image Size, I got exactly what I asked for, 6 inches by 4 inches with a resolution of 225. I also often like to do the opposite, so I'll undo this, and I'll go to Size and Resolution, and I'll make it 4 by 6 because the orientation of this image is more portrait. I'll leave the resolution the same, and I'll name this 4 by 6, 225 pixels per inch. And I'll click OK. I highly recommend you do this test with resolution at your local drugstore. Take an image that starts out at press quality resolution around 300, res it down to 225, res it down to 150, res it down to 100, and put a text note on each to see the resolution. And you'll notice either at 150 or 225 it starts to look best. As the resolution goes up, it doesn't get any better looking, it just creates a bigger file. This is how I learned resolution when I first started. And I got very lucky here. The proportions of my camera out of the box fit perfectly to that 4 by 6. I press Return or Enter to accept it, and that did drop the file size quite a bit. I'm now down to about 3.5 megs. I can hit Command-Option-I or Control-Alt-I to check the image size if I want to confirm I've got real hard inch values. And I hit Escape there to cancel. Now, one other very cool feature of the crop tool that you could actually do with the measure tool in earlier versions is straighten. If I go to unconstrained back here in our preset menu and I choose straighten. Now, before I do the unconstrained, I'm going to switch tools, go back to the crop tool. That way I haven't cut off the image. It actually remembered my dimensions from the previous photo. But here, I will click Straighten, and my first instinct might be to visually line up these jersey walls to try to make that the subject of the photo. When I let go, it shows me what's straightening. But in this case, I really prefer the new behavior. I turn off Use Classic Mode, and I love the opacity at 100% so I could see my final image before I commit to the crop. And the trees look a little crooked to me. So if I choose Straighten again, when I aim for something in the photo, look for a natural horizon line, like an object such as a building. I could try the roof of that building. I could hit Straighten again, and try the roof of this building. And that looks much more balanced to me. Once that's done, I can pull the boundaries out and try to preserve as much of the photo as possible. I could even try Content-Aware Fill to fill in some of this white space down at the bottom. It's my favorite trick for kind of keeping more of the original photo while still gaining a straightened image cropped to the proportions that I'd like. So if I press Return or Enter to do the crop, and I switch tools and hit Command-Z to undo, Command-Z again to redo, or Control-Z to undo, Control-Z to redo, now I've cropped and straightened my photo. The last thing I would need to do is fix this little portion in the corner. So I hope you've seen some ways you can crop with the new cropping tool to preset ratios, build your own custom preset with a fixed size and resolution, and use the Straighten guide. Open up a bunch of your photos, try out each, and good luck with cropping.